Welcome back to the Wasabi Apple. Been looking forward to this episode for a long time. Last time, if you remember, we went to the Japanese supermarket Mitsuwa to gather all of our ingredients and had an amazing adventure. But now that we've got all of the ingredients, it's time to make some ramen. We're going to make a vegetarian shoyu ramen, both with these fresher noodles, and we're also going to try the freeze-dried noodles as well, just to kind of get that comparison to see which one we like the best. Now, you don't have to use vegetarian shoyu if you don't want to. We just thought it would be kind of a unique take on the ramen. We've got miso, we've got tonkotsu, seafood, whatever flavor you like the best, you do that. But for us today, it's the vegetarian shoyu. Now, one of my favorite things about ramen is that it's so malleable. There is no right or wrong way to make ramen. If you do ramen just the noodles with the broth, that's your ramen. If you spice it up and you throw in all these cool ingredients, that's your ramen. It doesn't matter. The playing field is even for everyone. So let's get into it. Put on your chef's hat. And we're gonna make some ramen. Remember, before handling and prepping food, you should always wash your hands. Safety first. Just want to chop this nice and fine so you don't have huge chunks floating around in your ramen. I actually realized I cut a little more than I wanted to. You're really just gonna need maybe about a tablespoon or so, I think. Now, I really love garlic, so I'm gonna do about 4 bowls. Again, feel free to use as much or as little as you like. Just push down on the knife, the skin will peel right off. You're gonna wanna cut this little nub off the end. We'll set that aside, rinse and repeat. Not an exact science, just chop it up as finely as you want. So we've chopped all the ginger up, we've chopped all of our garlic up. We're gonna saute everything together in this first step, so I'm just gonna put the ginger with the garlic in the same bowl. We're going to use the whites of the spring onion, so just make sure you chop off this little root bit, and right where the white kind of bleeds into the green, go ahead and cut that off too. There, we can discard the root, and let's just use one more for good measure. Now that we've cut the whites of the scallion, we're just gonna go ahead and cut a few pieces of the green to top the ramen with after we're all done. We'll just place these on a plate. For the sauteing, you're gonna want a nice medium to low heat. You don't want it too high or things are gonna burn a little too fast. Next step is to add a little sesame oil, about a teaspoon or so. Again, you don't want too much or you're gonna drown your ingredients. So I'm gonna eyeball this because I'm not a chef by any means, but please feel free to do you. They say you're only supposed to add oil to a hot pan, but I don't really know what I'm doing. Make sure to try and coat the pan all the way so your little ingredients don't burn. And now we're ready to saute the garlic, the ginger, and the whites of the scallion. So go ahead and add these to the sesame oil pan. Want to coat all the ingredients in the oil, that nice sesame flavor to it. What we're doing here is basically adding to the base of the soup. It's gonna have a nice aromatic flavor, a lot of umami with the garlic and the spring onions here. You're gonna know that it's time, it's all finished. And the garlic browns just slightly, and your spring onions become just a little translucent. So while those are cooking, We're gonna go ahead and open up our ramen pack. We're gonna cheat just a little bit. The nice seasoned ingredients. So we don't have to make these by scratch because we're not chefs, we're hungry people, we just want good ramen. So we're gonna add these to the boiling pot, and this is going to become our broth pot. Pour all that brothy goodness in there. Brothy goodness, take two. This time it's personal. So I've actually let this go on a little too long and it has kind of burned a bit, but that's okay, it'll still work out all right. Just take all these ingredients, pour them straight into the broth bowl here. Turn off the heat. It's just a nice stir around, mix all those flavors around together. We're gonna leave the broth on a low simmer, just so it can all kind of mix together. You don't want it to boil over, but you do want the flavors to come. If you're like me, you're gonna like your ramen a little spicy. In this ramekin, we've just got some simple sriracha, not a whole lot, just a squeeze or two, just to heat things up a bit. Let's go ahead, pour that right into the broth. Be careful with the splashback. While the garlic, ginger, scallions, and seasoned packet are doing its thing over there, we're gonna go ahead and cut up the bok choy. We've got these little cuties, some baby bok choy. Feel free to use any kind you want. If you want the grown-up bok choy, if you want the baby bok choy, whatever fits your fancy. So just cut off the end here. If you want, you can pull it apart. If not, you can just kind of cut it out. However you like. That'll be good for a bowl. So we're gonna add just a little more sesame oil to the pan. Not a whole lot since there's already some oil left in there. Take our bok choy and just move it on over here. So for the bok choy, you don't need to saute it for too long. We've sauteed it for about 3 or 4 minutes, just enough to soften it up so it's not too bitey. And you don't want to burn it like I did the last time. And just place this in the bowl for later. Next step is marinating and cutting the tofu. So here we've got a medium firm tofu. I find that medium firm to firm actually holds up a little better in the ramen. If it's too soft, for me it kind of falls apart. Again, your personal preference, but I am going with medium firm. So what we're gonna do next is actually, in this bowl, going to mix a little bit of shoyu, a soy sauce. We've got some just regular old clover honey, kind of sweeten it up. Again, not too much honey or else it's gonna be a little too sweet. Forgive me, Japan, but I did live in Korea. We've got some Korean gochujang, which is fermented soybean paste mixed with peppers. It is great. If you don't like spicy, again, I wouldn't recommend the gochujang. So basically what we're doing is going to create a marinade for the tofu. We're gonna chop the tofu up, toss it in that marinade, throw it in the pan to saute. So with our shoyu, we're gonna add about 1/4 of the cup to the bowl. Pour that right on in there. Go ahead, we've got about 1 tablespoon of honey. I'm just gonna pour that right into the soy sauce. Since this is my kitchen and my ramen, no need to wash extra dishes. Next, again, depending on how spicy you want it, I would recommend 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon of gochujang as well. So just dip your spoon on in there. It's pretty thick. And it's pretty powerful stuff. So people usually say with gochujang, less is more, but I like more. Now that all the ingredients are in the bowl, simply just mix them together. And you want to mix the marinade until it's nice and smooth. So get all the gochujang clumps out, make sure the soy sauce and the honey mix well together. So this should work well enough for us. You can see that the liquid is fairly smooth. There aren't a whole lot of clumps. We're basically just using this to coat the tofu to give it kind of a nice sweet and spicy taste as we saute it. We're gonna put this aside for now. And and we're gonna cut our tofu up. If you've never used tofu before, do be aware that there is a lot of water floating inside. So when you press the knife down into it, it is gonna spill over just a little bit. Smack the tofu. Let's cut this in nice. Now that we've thoroughly dissected the tofu, we're ready to throw it into the marinade. Make sure when it's in the marinade, you cover the entirety of the tofu square. Just take about 6. Again, you can kind of put as many in there, as little as you want. Just kind of mix it around. If you're like me, you like the hands-on, you can really get in there messy. Make sure you do wash your hands first, obviously, before cooking, especially if you're cooking for other people. So just make sure all the tofu is thoroughly coated in your marinade. Nice and pretty. We're ready to throw it into the pot. Just scoop that in there. Don't worry if some of the marinade falls into your pan. It's just gonna make a nice glaze for you. If you want, just pour it on in there. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, so we're just kind of caramelizing the tofu. Again, you don't want it to sit for too long or else you're gonna burn it. So just keep flipping it. Make sure every side of your tofu gets a chance to see that pan. We're ready to take it out. So we've got our broth boiling right now. We've sauteed the bok choy. We've marinated and sauteed the tofu. We're ready for the noodles. Arguably the most important part of the ramen. I know you thought it was the broth, but it's actually the noodles. So all we did was boil a pot of water, again about 4 cups. Super simple. Open up the bag, drop it into the water, let that cook for about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. While that's cooking, we're gonna take my favorite mushrooms, Enoki mushrooms, and just kind of chop off the bottom. You can kind of see where they came from the dirt here. We want to get rid of that so we can get to the good stuff. So just take your knife, chop it off. We've got all of our ingredients assembled. Everything's been sauteed, tofu is marinated, the broth has been boiled, the noodles have been strained. The moment you've all been waiting for. Time to put it together. Just take your little broth here. Oh, that looks so good. I think this is gonna be good, guys. Go ahead, add the noodles to the bowl. Just drop those right on in there. Again, be careful not to burn yourself. There we go. Yeah, they love it in there. They love it in their home. Add our bok choy. Just put that right on in there. Tofu is next. Just gonna eat the other 2. That is good. Go ahead and add the enoki. Right in there. There we go. Because I love garlic so much, I've actually roasted some garlic. Just add a little extra sweetness and a little extra umami to our ramen here. If you want to roast garlic, super easy. I just took the whole bulb, cut off the very top, wrap it in some tin foil. I actually put mine in a cupcake holder. Preheat the oven to anywhere from 350 to 400. In this case, I did 375. Just depends on what site you go to. Let it bake for about 40 minutes. Put a little olive oil on the top first so it doesn't burn. Take it out of the oven and enjoy. One of life's simple pleasures. For me, ramen isn't ramen without a nice soft-boiled egg. Yasu's been awesome enough to make this last night. He's put it in a little marinade. And we're just gonna add this right on into the ramen. We'll put a description on how to marinate the egg. To top it off, sprinkle your spring onions. Itadakimasu. Let's eat. You know, I was a little concerned, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little concerned doing this. I'm not a chef, I'm not a cook, but this is pretty darn tasty. You've got nice kind of umami from the broth and all the garlic. A little bit of sweetness due to the caramelization of the tofu with our marinade. The enoki add a little bit of nice spongy mouthfeel, kind of earthy bit to it. The bok choy really adds to the ramen as well. Love the roasted garlic. I love the roasted garlic. I would say the sauce is actually a little on the thinner side as far as ramen sauce goes, but it does cling to the noodle quite well, which is what you're looking for in a good ramen. So we actually cooked our ramen just slightly al dente because I like my noodle to be a little bitier. Nothing worse than biting into a soggy noodle, and this has just hit the nail on the head. My God. We have another bowl to the right of the instant ramen, but I don't even want to eat it because this is so good. Huge shout out to my friend Tony Spitz who sent that little recipe over to me. I hope I did right by you. I can tell you, even if I messed it up just a little bit, it was delicious. So thank you so much, Tony. My stomach will always love you. You want to do the comparison?
Sure.
Because I was so excited to try a ramen baby, I accidentally put all the ingredients in the first bowl. But that's okay, like I said, the ingredients are just secondary. To me, what's most important is the noodle. I've poured the remainder of the broth into the freeze-dried ramen. So let's see how the noodles compare here. You can see the noodles are a little different. The fresh noodles are straight and thin. The freeze-dried noodles are gonna be a little wavy, still thin though, so let's give them a try. Get that sauce on the noodle, blow it up. Still good, still good. So the thing about the freeze-dried noodles to me is that they seem to be a little soggier than the fresh noodles. I would actually cook these a little less. So we cooked them about 2.5 to 3 minutes. I would probably cook these freeze-dried noodles to 1.5 to 2 minutes, just to get that bite. Still good though. The broth does cling to the noodles. I think these noodles are a little more porous than the fresh noodles. So the broth kind of soaks into them. Again, it kind of contributes to the sogginess of the noodles. But honestly, for a $2 pack of ramen, not too bad. Not too bad. That's just one type of ramen. Well, I guess technically 2 types of ramen out of the thousands of different kinds. We're gonna do another episode that focuses more specifically on the different types of ramen, kind of get into the history a little bit, and the future of ramen. We're not gonna do the future. That's just one of the there are so many different styles of ramen depending on the chef, depending on the pack, depending on the grocery store. You could spend a lifetime eating ramen and you would never eat your way through. Which is why we're gonna do another episode on ramen, not cooking specifically, but just kind of highlighting the different types that are out there and available to you. So stay tuned for next time, and we'll take another bite out of the ramen apple. I hope that you enjoy your ramen as much as I enjoyed mine. If you liked this video, if it helped you, don't know what I'm gonna say, never mind, turn it off, Yasu.